I'm Gary Moody, bassoon professor at Colorado State University. Today, I'm going to discuss some ways to prepare for this year's audition material for the Colorado All-State ensembles. In this video, I will be dealing with the etude on page 31 of the Rubank Advanced Method, Book 1. A successful audition begins with accurate rhythm. The recommended tempo of this etude is 120 to 124 eighth notes per minute. The advantage of thinking in eighth notes is in the accuracy of the counting, but the disadvantage is that the fast pulse does not correspond to the marking of lento. Therefore, while I like to think in terms of eighth notes, I want to feel the quarter note pulse at 60 to 62. The danger in counting an eighth note unit is that we may mistakenly fall into our default quarter note beat habit. Always be aware of the unit you are counting. In fact, I want to think in terms of the smallest rhythmic unit in any section of the piece. You'll see that this etude deals with dotted rhythms, both dotted eighth notes and doubly dotted quarter notes. That means in those sections, I want to think in terms of 16th notes. The dotted eighth note is a commonly miscounted rhythm. To be sure of its accuracy, I always think of the dotted eighth as 3/16th notes so that I don't rush to the 4th 16th. The doubly dotted quarter is a rhythm that looks more unfamiliar than it really is. It could be rewritten as a quarter note tied to the dotted eighth note. It will be the length of 7/16th notes, 4 for the quarter and 3 more for the dotted eighth. To enhance this thinking for practice, I will actually tongue the separate 16ths in the dotted notes. When performance time comes, I still mentally tongue them without physically tonguing them. In bar 5, still thinking in the smallest subdivision of the note, and to guarantee that I begin the triplet 16th notes at the correct time, I break the dotted quarter into its 3 eighth note parts. One of the first things I do when preparing a piece is to plan where my breaths will be. Breathing is necessary to keep us alive and to have air to support the tone. But where we place the breaths helps serve to clarify the punctuation of the phrases. Just as when there are options when placing commas within a written sentence, there are also options where phrase breaks can occur. There can be several good solutions, so feel free to experiment. Consistent breathing points also means that a phrase will not be surprisingly interrupted with a gasp, and that you'll have the same amount of air in the same points of the phrase every time, resulting in more consistent attacks. Here is one plan for phrasing and breathing. The second phrase starts in the 4th complete bar. 4-bar phrases are common, and while every piece does not necessarily have that length of phrases, it is a good place to start when looking for phrase breaks. Because the first phrase starts with pickup notes on beat 4, I think the second phrase also starts on beat 4 with the rhyme of this dotted rhythm, so I will breathe after beat 3 of bar 4. Staying with 4-bar phrases, I think the third phrase starts in bar 8, this time after beat 2. I think that the sudden piano dynamic and the slurred eighth notes indicate the next more lyric phrase. The final phrase is now 4.5 bars long. The second half of bar 10 is like the start of this phrase, and to help the listener hear this, you may choose to breathe after beat 2 in this bar. Here is another option. While the musical sentence can be thought of as 4 bars long, this version puts a comma in the middle of the sentence. This may help to avoid a run-on sentence and allow you to have plenty of air for good support. Remember, a good tone is better than the longer phrase. At the top of the staff, A's, B-flats, B's, and C's are notes that can easily crack, so that there is some lower octave sound at the start of the note. To avoid cracking these notes, I want to use the flick technique. This allows me to get the bassoon to speak in the 2nd octave without pinching, which would create a thinner tone and sharp pitch. Whenever these notes are tongued or slurred into with a leap, I will use the flick keys, the A key for the A's and the C key for the B-flats, B's, and C's. When those notes are preceded with a note that uses the whisper key, I let my thumb leave the whisper key early enough to arrive at the flick key for the start of that note. In this copy, I have marked all the flick notes with a small circle to symbolize the C key. I will flick the B's in bar 1, the B's and C's in bars 4 through 6, and the A sharp in 7, and the B in 8. All of the A's are stepped into with slurs and don't require a flick, but you could flick them without harm. I also want to be sure to uncover enough half-holes so that none of the F sharps and G's crack. For all of these half-hole notes, I still keep the whisper key down. One last word of caution. Watch out for accidentals that carry through the measure, the D sharp at the end of bar 9 and the C sharp in bar 11. Also, because the D sharp in bar 10 does not carry across the bar line, the first note of bar 11 is a D natural. These have all been marked with courtesy accidentals found in parentheses. I hope this video will be helpful to you in preparing for your audition. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Good luck.